It's now been more than 6 weeks since Special Counsel Bob Mueller, the former FBI director, concluded his investigation into Russia's interference in our 2016 election and delivered his findings to the Justice Department. It's been 2 weeks since Attorney General William Barr made the 450-page report public. This investigation went on for 2 years. It's finally over. Many Americans were waiting to see how their elected officials would respond. With an exhaustive investigation complete, would the country finally unify to confront the real challenges before us? Would we finally be able to move on from partisan paralysis and breathless conspiracy theorizing? Or would we remain consumed by unhinged partisanship and keep dividing ourselves to the point that Putin and his agents need only stand on the sidelines and watch us as their job is actually done for them? Regrettably, the answer is pretty obvious. So that's what I want to discuss this morning: Russia's interference in American elections, the work of the special counsel and the Attorney General, and how we can finally end this Groundhog Day spectacle, stop endlessly relitigating a 2.5-year-old election result, and move forward for the American people. Now, Madam President, it bears remembering what this investigation was actually supposed to be about: Russian interference in 2016. For many of the president's opponents, it quickly morphed into something else, a last hope that maybe they'd never have to come to terms with the American people's choice of a president. In some corners, Special Counsel Mueller came to be regarded as a kind of secular saint, destined to rescue the country from the inconvenient truth that the American people actually elected Donald Trump. For 2 years, many of the president's opponents seemed to be hoping the worst conspiracy theories were actually true. They seemed to be hoping for a national crisis for the sake of their own politics. They told everyone there'd been a conspiracy between Russia and the Trump campaign. Yet on this central question, the special counsel's finding is clear: case closed. Case closed. This ought to be good news for everyone. But my Democratic colleagues seem to be publicly working through the 5 stages of grief. First stage is denial.
So, Madam President, I've just listened to my friend, the Majority Leader, engage in an astounding bit of whitewashing. Not unexpected, but entirely unconvincing. Yes, the Mueller investigation took 2 years. And yes, it produced a stunning document in the end. Not only a damning appraisal of our election security and just how willing a major presidential campaign was to accept and amplify the disinformation of a foreign adversary, but also through an examination of the behavior of a lawless president who at least on 11 occasions, according to the report, may have obstructed a federal investigation. So while my friend, the Majority Leader, wants to say case closed, I don't blame him. 375 former federal prosecutors looked at the Mueller report and said publicly that the conduct of the president amounts to felony obstruction of justice, and that in any other case, were he not president, those prosecutors would recommend bringing charges. So our leader says, let's move on. It's sort of like Richard Nixon saying, let's move on, at the height of the investigation of his wrongdoing. Of course he wants to move on. He wants to cover up. He wants to silence on one of the most serious issues we face: whether a foreign power can manipulate our elections, the wellspring of our democracy. If the leader is sincere, then put election security on the floor. Let's debate it. Put sanctions on Russia on the floor. Let's debate it. He doesn't want to move on. He wants to run away from these awful facts that relate to the wellspring of our democracy: foreign interference in our election and a president who is lawless.